Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, Radiant Light Beings. Welcome to Awakenings. That was a little bit of happiness from DJ Petey, a little bit of spring in the step there for a cloudy, gloomy day in Southern California, but it's absolutely beautiful. And hi to all in the chat. I see you, the sacred space holders of the sacred space of empowerment. It's wonderful to see all of you and connect with all of you through the subtle energy plane that we're all connecting with, whether you're in the Sacred Empowerment Room, also known as the chat room, or not. Amazing day today, a lot of rain, and I went for a walk earlier today at the beach, and it was just wonderful, cloudy, overcast, really crashing waves. I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's very inspiring. Sometimes we need these pattern interrupts. We've been having a lot of really, really warm weather here. And I know a lot of people are going through the opposite, because I talk to people all over the country and all over the world. So I know that the weather is very disparate. So those just tuning in or perhaps just new to Awakenings, want to share a little bit about Awakenings with you. This is a converging flow. It's part of a converging flow as once it is part of the converging flow, and it is also creating a converging flow. And we're going to delve more into that as time goes on. What does that mean? It means we're all coming together to this great circle of co-creation. So here at Awakenings, we have dialogues and interviews with spiritual teachers, healers, conscious experts, visionaries, awakened leaders, authors, and conscious beings of all walks of life. And I think the apropos terms here are conscious and awake. And that doesn't mean perfect, even though we're perfected beings in perfect form. But we are consciously on a path and feeling the call. This is a place for a lot of light workers, way showers to connect and get their sustenance, get clear, their soul food, if you will, their spiritual nourishment, and to go back out into their life and live more aware. It's also the place where there's a lot of people that have been living awake and aware and are doing something with that state of consciousness or being, every time we attain a state of consciousness or a new expanded state of consciousness or awareness, you'll find, if you look back in your life, that you actually were called to do something or help someone or to do more or be more in your life, be more fulfilled in your life. So we get these states of being, this growth or expansion, not to kind of just sit on it, or as people say, hide your light in a bushel, or barrel or something, but to shine it. So I welcome all of you to shine, shine, shine in the chat room. If you have questions, I would suggest either use the question icon or type it in caps so I could easily see it. Or you can call in, which we love calls, at 347-539-5122. And I see Mystic Light already there, but is just listening via phone, so that's cool. Appreciate you letting me know that. Wow, yesterday, or Wednesday, Sark was amazing. And she already said she's going to come back, so we'll play some more. Her book, Juicy Pen, Thirsty Paper. That's what it is. Juicy Pen, Thirsty Paster sounds really, really good. And I've already been kind of playing around with that micro movements. Anybody else? If you're call in, let me know, or email, or put in the chat those micro movements. Just doing something little by little, bit by bit. I mean, brilliant, brilliant way And I've been playing again with her books, Inspiration Sandwich. I reread this book over and over, and this Prosperity Pie, How to Relax About Money and Everything, which I'm going to read a little bit of that before we dive into our connecting today. If you're having trouble with sound, refresh. Yeah, it is a great title, isn't it? Mystic in the chat is saying great title, yeah. Now, by the way, I want to let everyone know, again, call-in number 347-539-5122. Call in, ask questions, comment, all of the above. Oh, Kathy just started it today. Oh, my God, that's great. Kathy in the chat is saying she just started it today. That's great. Yeah, fun. And you know what? And you're doing with your drawings. That's great, Kathy. Yeah, I've been kind of even coloring the little artwork that she has in here, the little drawings, and this is it. You know, we're creating this new paradigm, a new economy. We all need to just play in some different realms here. Also wanted to let you know that Beth Green, which will be Friday the 13th, that auspicious day, will be here again. And some of you may remember she's the director of the stream. She's going to be doing a mini workshop for us, turning crisis into opportunity. And she's actually going to work with people. So if you call in, it's more specifically call in. We can do a little bit general with the email, but the idea is to call in, and she has these 6 areas that people tend to fall into in regards to finance, money, and the whole lot of it. Abundance, that whole energetic paradigm, which is money is just a small little portion of. So she's, amazing. If you listen to the archive, you'll just see she was a wealth of knowledge, insightful, irreverent as well, and hilarious. So it was great. So again, that's Friday the 13th. And which is a day of transformation, the 13 energy, new beginnings, clearing the old out and establishing a new order. So that'll be pretty amazing. And this workshop, the mini workshop that she is doing for us next week, is a precursor to a larger workshop conference that I believe that she's having, I believe, on the 15th at her center, which I believe is somewhere near Vista South. I know San Diego County. How's that? But you guys can find it by Googling or going to the archive. Or, of course, on Friday she'll be talking about this. And so it's going to be great. So if you want to call in with your specific questions and have her walk you through, she's actually going to do some of her processing work with people that call in that fall into these various areas. And I will know more when she's here. Also wanted to let you know that if you go to my website, selfandlight.com, and if anyone wants to put that in the chat, that'd be great. And click the mailing list, info@selfandlight.com. I can keep you abreast of some stuff that's going on, kind of give you a heads up. Also, there's a lot of stuff that you can download that's fun. And thank you, Mystic, for putting that in there. Appreciate that. I just didn't think, because she asked, what prompted this is Beth said, well, if we know some of the questions ahead of time, or that people will be calling in, that she can work with these specific areas. It's a whole process that she does, but the basic is seeing the crises as an opportunity, and to see where you're stuck. I guess there's 6 different types, for a better or lack of word, or phenomena, 6 different things that happen to people, or states of consciousness or being, and that creates different circumstances or situations. So she's actually going to do the work, the processing, which is, I think, is so cool. I think that's great. So if you email me at info@selfandlight.com, or Michele@selfandlight.com, but it's probably with one L, so it's easier probably to do info@selfandlight.com, and just put awakenings in the top, or newsletter, or email list, or something, so that I can pass it to my assistant. And we will start putting something together to let everyone know what else is going on. And also, If you want to call in for sure, and you know you do, and there's some area that you would like some support in and some assistance, email me that, and then you would get priority for sure, your questions, or you would be able to be on air and have it answered, and also receive something back, some email back. I have been emailing people some meditations that help at this time for actually turning crisis into opportunity, or recognizing the opportunity or the opening. So that's another thing. If you do email info@selfandlight.com, then I can also send you that, or send you the link for that via my share file. So I wanted to read something from Prosperity Pie, How to Relax About Money and Everything Else. And it really is, and I'm really excited about the guests that we're going to have on today, because the idea, I think we're going to get some misnomers cleared up and really move into the consciousness of abundance, the consciousness of wealth, that it's beyond the monetary. Wealth has many meanings. There's that internal wealth, our inner riches, and very often living abundantly has to do with letting our inner riches or our inner wealth be extended into the external. But it's all consciousness, like Walter Starkey, who was on Wednesday, said that, let's focus on consciousness and not so much on the result of it, or let's focus on the consciousness that created what we wanted or what we want. So it's fine to want something, but you have to look eventually at your consciousness. And it's not as simple as just, I want this, so I'm going to attract this, or how am I going to, and attracting, we all manifest. So manifestation is really not the big deal. It's the consciousness that manifests. We manifest every day. We're manifesting beings. We're creative beings. We're constantly creating, constantly co-creating. We cannot not do that, because we are here to create. We are creator beings. But it's the consciousness that shows what one creates. I had once a student of mine, amazing creator. Lola, thank you. You like the imagery to make on my site. Thank you so much. I had this woman that I was working with at one point. Actually, was in a class, and it was I teach a workshop in class sometimes every couple months. It just depends on my schedule, but it's manifesting your life's destiny and living your soul's purpose. And she was saying how she never created what she wanted or didn't manifest, but then she proceeded to go into this whole story, how she met this man and she just knew she had to be with him, and wanted to move in with him, buy a house, move into this other area, and he was receptive, but not totally receptive. It kind of was back and forth a little bit, but she was determined, and she manifested all that. So she got the guy, got the engagement, got the ring, got the guy, got the house, and they moved. And then 18 months later, he came out to her and said that he actually was gay. So anyway, she was very upset about that, needless to say, and she said she was an awful manifestor. I said, oh, no, au contraire, you are an amazing manifestor. You're an amazing, look at that, But what's the consciousness there? And Mystic Light is saying you never manifest what you really want. So I'm sure our guest is going to be able to tap in and help us with that. Yeah. For me, it's getting clear about what you want. Is it from the ego personality level only, or bringing in that higher expanded consciousness of what is it that you really want? And sometimes there's issues of deservability. Do I deserve what I really want? Can I play in the game that I really want? So just a little bit from Prosperity Pie, Sark's book. New perspectives. Often we just need another way to look at something. A different angle usually works. Reframing. This involves restating and reclaiming. Maybe it's a belief. Maybe it's a way of being. And then we need an energetic shift. Now, sometimes that energetic shift is taking a walk, sometimes listening to music, definitely coming to awakenings and hearing, what our wonderful guests have to say or other people in the chat. But you have to shift your energy somehow so you're not in the same old groove, playing the same old songs, hearing the same old message. And that perspective, that reframing something, if you're saying I always, and Mystic Light, I'm going to point this out just a sec, I never manifest what I want. Do you see what that becomes a mantra? I never manifest what I want. I never manifest. And it gets tapped in to the nervous system. It gets tapped into the brain. It gets tapped in as, it's a little mantra, as a song, as your hymn, if you will, as your theme song. So little things like reframing and saying, in the past, I haven't manifested what I wanted. Do you see what that does right away? If you do that enough, it begins to clear the energy in the present that says, well, in the past that happened, but the present can be different. It automatically opens up that possibilities. So just small little things like that. Watch these absolutes. I always, I never. This always happens to me. This never happens to me. Because, like we talked about on, Wednesday, and I was sharing with you, and Walter was also, speaking of this, that we're never the same, even on a cellular level. So, we're not the same person in the morning that we were at night. There's actually been cellular rejuvenation, there's been renewal, there can be new awareness, new insight, new feelings that are also encoded within the body or shifted within the body. Even our weight fluctuates. Our taste buds fluctuate. What we thought we wanted to do the night before, maybe that day, the day brings something different. So my perception is and suggestion is to focus more on the change point, the newness, the possibility, the opening, as opposed to the closed comments or beliefs of the absolute. This always happens, this never happens. Because the only thing that's absolute is source, but after source point, as we extend out, there's no absolutes. There's only, shades of color, different individuated expression. So there's no absolute. There's never an absolute. So we don't want to live from that space because then it tends to lock us in. Our guest today, and maybe is on the line, I'm going to see, but some of you may already know of Bob Doyle, his amazing book out, Wealth Consciousness. His website is Wealth Beyond Reason. And he postulates, and I agree with this, that we're co-creating a new paradigm, one more of enhanced creativity, creative expression. And also, Bob, which I really want to get into with him, that he has a bit of a different interpretation of the law of attraction, that there's been an oversimplification of that, like attracts like, or something like that, which I have been, I know we're speaking to the choir here, and Bob is so totally going to fit in, because it's not necessarily that. It's more complex than that, because it has to do with the consciousness. So we attract into our experience that which we are in vibrational resonance with, our consciousness. So it's not as simple as saying, I like green, so I'm attracting green now. It's much deeper than that. So Bob is definitely a expert in this field and is living it, has been living this, and I feel really blessed that he's going to be here to share his knowledge and insight with us as we really kick off into this inspired living, creative living phase that we're all moving into. Bob, are you on the line? Bob? Hello?
Hi, this is Ricky, just listening.
Oh, you're listening. Okay. All right. He's not there yet, so he might be here 12:30. Wasn't exactly sure if he's calling at 12:15 or 12:30. Since it's 12:19, I guess 12:30. Well, anyway, you know who all is going to be here now. So I can tap in a little bit to that idea of that vibrational resonance, that what does that mean? This is why I have said before, you don't necessarily need to focus on the law of attraction or attracting. That naturally happens because we attract that which we are in resonance with. So if I'm truly connecting in to where I'm being guided, then I begin to draw in that which really resonates to me, which is, Mystic Light said earlier, how do you manifest what you really want? Well, you don't really do it at the ego personality level, and you don't really do it at the surface level. It's your subconscious patterning. If that subtext has, I never get this, or I never get what I want, if you're operating at that level, you're not going to attract really what you want, because your vibrational frequency isn't expanded enough or isn't high enough, if you will. That's why getting in the meditative state really helps. It's a major kickstart. It's a major carrier wave to get into that state of consciousness that you're attracting, which is for the highest good, or what I like to say, the most life enhancement. But again, it's all consciousness. We have to look at what's the consciousness that created something, like that situation that I mentioned earlier about the person that I was working with. If the consciousness isn't expanded, if you and your consciousness do not think that you can handle something or have something or ready for some experience, then it won't be drawn into your sphere. And the other thing I like to talk about is also the soul. I mean, if it's not within your soul's, resonance. Again, we go back to resonance or resonant frequency. If it's not part of your path, then that's not going to be drawn in either. And you find that by being in an expanded state of consciousness. You find that which is right for you. It's literally drawn to you. Let's see, Grand Elf is manifesting is focusing on holding that focus for at least 15 seconds. Well, I don't necessarily know about that, because we're always manifesting. Manifesting only means to bring into material form, manifested form. And in fact, it comes from the French, manifeste. So you'll hear the French say, what did you manifeste? What did you do today? Basically, is what it means. So yeah, I think, and this is why I'm glad Bob is going to be on. It's not so much if that's like saying, what are you going to create? We're always creating something. I mean, I manifest something when I, smoosh the toothpaste out of the tube and brush my teeth. I manifest, more cleaner teeth, or when I make breakfast in the morning. So it's not so much the manifesting. It's more, where is your consciousness and where is your vibrational frequency resonating at, and what is the belief? What are your beliefs? The beliefs are going to dictate what you manifest. That's why a lot of times people that tend to draw in a lot, sometimes because they don't have the belief that they can't. And I have amazing clients that she's what I call a receiver. Some people are initiators, some people generators, some people receivers. She receives so much. She's very open, lives very generously, very open, very much in the moment. Sometimes she needs to plan a little more. However, she just receives, and I mean receives. I mean people giving her computers. I mean people helping her with hundreds to thousands of dollars. I mean just giving, and amazing trips and opportunities. But she's very open. She does not have the idea that I can't have this or shouldn't have this. Now, Kathy in the chat is asking, what about manifesting on a spiritual level? Well, what do you mean by that? If you can clarify on a spiritual level, because we're all spiritual beings co-creating, right? So we're all, we cannot not be spiritual. So are we spiritually aware, or are we integrating our spiritual nature is another point. Consciousness is spiritual. Our spiritual aspect of ourselves is consciousness. So whatever is manifesting is coming from that spiritual essence or consciousness. I don't know if that helps, but yeah. So it helps to think of yourself as a spiritual being. To me, that's the answer of the who am I? I'm a spiritual being. End of story. Now let's move into create. What do I want to create? Where do I want to manifest? Where do I want to express this being that I am. Maybe that's a better term. If you start looking at that also, if you start asking yourself that question, or the question, where do I want to express myself or my energy and how, that right there opens you up to a huge amount of abundance. Well, bringing more abundance of a spiritual sight or vision for our being. I would say going back to meditation or meditative state, Kathy, to see what wants to come through you as you. What is your true nature wanting you to experience. Getting Lucy to just but no. Well, I think sometimes there's that disparity between the spirit and the material. Again, if we look at the material, is consciousness made manifest. And what is consciousness but our spiritual nature or spirituality? That's the consciousness goes on. The physical body changes form and becomes no more, just like the plant or the tree, but the consciousness goes on. So you can up-level or upshift your consciousness. You can become more aware, more in tune, more psychic, more telepathic, more empathetic, more intuitive, if you will, follow your gut knowing more. I mean, those things you can do. And then, of course, that filters into your belief systems and your behavior. So the more consciousness, the more that you perhaps draw in or attract that is more life-enhancing for you. Okay, I'm going to see if Bob is now on the line. Since he was. Hello, 678-584.
Hey, it's Bob.
Hey, Bob. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. Had a little false start. I thought it was you. It was another, I think, a Skype number of somebody that had called in.
Oh, really? Oh, no.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I missed that. That could have been interesting.
That's okay. They were like, oh, we're just listening. I'm like, that's not Bob. It's a woman's voice, and they're just listening.
Yeah,
oh,
that would have been funny.
It's great to have you here because I feel it's so timely right now with what's happening with the old structures and the old, economy of the race consciousness or mainstream consciousness. People need to know how to tap into that consciousness that is, as you term, wealth consciousness, and live more from that place instead of the result, or the end point, only the monetized version. But coming from that wealth consciousness, there's more of an ability to create that abundance that people want, or that prosperity, however you want to term it. So that's why you're here. I guess you're doing
Oh, that's why. I thought we were sharing cake recipes. I'm embarrassed.
Right. Well, we could do that too.
Okay, great.
And of course, you've had and I want to get a little bit of your background for those people that aren't aware of you. I'm sure a lot are, but how you came to this, because since you kind of stumbled into it, I would say.
Yeah, there was a stumbling involved, I guess, but there was also some intention behind it too, because I was driven really to know what it felt like. I mean, I had no idea what the term wealth consciousness meant, but I knew that I wasn't feeling wealthy, and so I was one of those people who I did fine monetarily in terms of how much money I was getting paid, and the job I had was good in that way, but I couldn't keep money. And so really I wasn't much better off than, people who made less money but could do more with it, who had it. See, the thing about wealth consciousness is it has nothing to do with a dollar amount. And that's one of the things we talk about when people first get started is, yes, money plays into wealth consciousness. There's no question about it. But that's not all wealth is. And so really, determine it, because we get so focused on the money as if that is the way to feel wealthy, right, or happy or fulfilled or whatever. When obviously you and I know that's not true, but a lot of people who are experiencing a lack in their finances, it's really hard to explain that to them because what they have right now is an immediate need, to get out of whatever situation they've got themselves in right now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which is why I think the whole idea of the wealth consciousness is going to take more precedence, because key precedence, as a matter of fact, is because when you keep not having something, or the jobs are going away, or the forms are going away, or they're changing, and the game is changing, you kind of have to think differently.
Yeah, you definitely do. Now, see, the thing is that right now what a lot of people are experiencing in the economy is, I felt more at my own personal scale, 7 years ago, when my personal economy was going in the tank, right? I'd quit my job. I had, nothing was happening. And so I was feeling, to me, the reality was the economy was terrible. It was worse, way worse then than it is now, right? So the thing is that we all carry around these sort of personal economies, and wealth consciousness is what is going to keep us from following the pack downward, which is what's happening right now, as you alluded to before. I mean, there's so many people talking about how bad things are that it definitely perpetuates that as a reality. But even though we as individuals can watch it happen out there, it doesn't mean that we have to get sucked into it and experience that for ourselves. But if we do allow ourselves to go down that track, our options are very few because we're not thinking creatively. We're not in resonance with, any kind of success. What we're in resonance with is the economic downfall that everybody's experiencing. And so, that's the challenge right now because there's so much going on about wealth and the lack thereof that it's really, it's more challenging now than ever, I think, or at least for a long time, for people to actually put themselves in a wealth consciousness state if they don't, if that's not what they're experiencing.
Mm-hmm. And it's even more important now then. So that's kind of the interesting dichotomy, is that in some ways, for some, it's harder to do. I say one thing: don't watch so much news, everyone. Filter. Don't let that the news play over and over in your head of what's going on, because that is one way you can get sucked in.
Well, yes,
any thought of that,
on
Bob?
several levels. Yes, yeah, definitely, because people do get sucked in. They can't take their eyes off of it. They're hearing everybody else's opinion. They can't help but be led emotionally down one certain path, and they're going to take action as a result of what they're hearing. And I'm not saying that people should spend money irresponsibly or do anything like that, but what I'm saying is that some people have become so scared that they're being so conservative and so careful that they're not taking the normal risk that a person would take to grow, to evolve themselves, to maybe start their own business, which I really believe is the way out of this for most people. It's just one of those things where if they're so scared, they're not open. They're not in the flow at all. They're not in touch with their sense of purpose and passion, and they're as far away from being in alignment with wealth as they can possibly be.
Boy, and it's interesting what you say with that sense of your purpose and passion, because if you're not in alignment with that, it is hard to draw in what's for your highest good, or whatever that means to you, and if it has to be with dollars also. How do you feel people cannot get sucked in? What are some things that you think people need to do, besides I'm putting your Wealth Beyond Reason in the chat, the website? Definitely there's tools there.
Thanks. Your suggestion of not immersing yourself in what's going on, all the bad news out there, is fine. I mean, I hardly ever watch or listen, and I exist in society just fine, and I know a lot of people like that. It's not absolutely essential that you inundate yourself with all those bad news and be paralyzed with fear. My suggestion, obviously, is to focus on what you want your life to be and forget about how you think you're going to afford it or any of that stuff, because your vision, your passion will drive you, and that's how the law of attraction works, automatically, where you don't have to think about it. You don't worry about vision boards or visualizing.
Exactly.
Visualizing, yes, but when you're in your state of passion, you're attracting naturally, and that will perpetuate you.
Bob, I got a gong on the truth. There's a gong. Thank you for saying that, because so many people are led astray that their focus is, instead of the vibrational frequency, it's on this idea that I have to focus on that which I want to manifest. So it's almost like, I don't know, squeezing something in your hand, and then someone saying, if you open your hand, I can give you something. And you're saying, no, I need to hold on to this. But then you can't receive because you're holding, your fists are, is tightly closed. So if you can go through that again so people can get that, because we've got some questions in the chat about that. Your term of really focusing on that vibrational resonance and talking a little bit about what the law of magnetic attraction actually is, and why is it so important that we get the idea, that everyone gets the idea that we really attract into our experience that which we are in resonance with.
Well, that's a lot.
You can do it. I know you can.
I know I can do it. But yeah, that's a lot. Well, okay, so my big thing is that, the law of attraction is, and I heard you state, talk about the word resonance a little bit earlier too, that it's all about resonance, not so much as, a particular frequency or even like attracts like or any of that stuff. I mean, it's just what you're in resonance with, you attract. And the example that I often use is about music, because and that, which is a good example because music is all vibration, right? And we interact with it through vibration. That's all we have is the sound waves and the vibration. So that's how we take in music. And when we hear music that we resonate with, we can feel it. We feel it on a physical and an emotional level. We say we like that. We want more of that. We bring more of that into our lives. We basically you've attracted each other, the music and yourself. You resonate, and so then perhaps that kind of music becomes more of a part of your life. But that sort of bringing together of two different clusters of energy based on their vibration doesn't mean that it's the exact same frequency or anything like that. It's just that for however it's working on this really grand, complicated level of things, you're resonating with things. Now, the only thing we have to know about that is, okay, well, how do we get into vibrational resonance with what we want? And 99% of what we're attracting is completely unconscious, and we're on autopilot, because we are, we're just bodies of energy in this ocean of energy, and so we're all connected, and we're it's really quite fascinating, but everything around us, if you look around your room, you are in resonance with it or it wouldn't be there. Now, that's happening at such a complex level that it's ridiculous. The point is, though, that we can also be conscious about what we get into resonance with, and that's what this quote-unquote work with the law of attraction is about. How do we get into vibrational resonance with something so that it draws to us just like we draw towards the music we like or whatever? And so what we're seeing is that your emotions are really the feedback of that whole thing. I mean, we feel bad and we feel good, and that changes what we're putting out there energetically. And so that all ties back into wealth consciousness. If we feel bad about money, like we don't have it or there's not enough or it's too hard to get, that's what we're in resonance with. And so what we will attract are situations and circumstances that are in resonance with that. So you're going to get more evidence of the fact that, yeah, money's hard to come by and, you don't have enough and all of that. If you can change what you're putting out there at a vibrational level, then you can attract something else, but not until, okay? And so that's what I'm saying about learning how to shift that. And, there's all sorts of different ways to, and what we're talking about is the things that are stopping us is resistance. And that's just energy that is not in resonance with what you're trying to attract. And those are your limiting beliefs and your self-talk and, all that stuff that stops you. And so really most of the work, if you will, about the law of attraction and getting it to work for you isn't so much about understanding what it is or how it works, because none of that really matters. What matters is, okay, well, what's stopping me from attracting what I want? If I'm doing all these techniques and I'm doing all these exercises that I hear these people talking about, why am I not getting it? Well, it's that underlying stuff, and I'm sure you're way familiar with this, right? So, you've got to clear that resistance because that's the energy that's acting like that force field against what you want.
Yeah. And that's the work, and again, people have to get, be dedicated to their life. It's your life, in a sense, that you have to look at that underlying stuff because that's really what is fueling, driving you to actually on one level and also attracting that which you're receiving.
Yeah, it really is.
Right?
I was just going to say that is, it's such a driving factor. It's the only thing really, and you're right. People will have to say, we'll have to look at it or deal with that resistance in some way, and that may not be comfortable. But the thing is look, I always say that the law of attraction is not some personal development tool that was just packaged together. It's this very powerful force in the universe. It's been at work since the beginning of time, and we just happen to be in a position where we as human beings are waking up to kind of what's going on, and we find that we have a ton of resistance. that we've cultivated through generation after generation, society-wise, teaching-wise, whatever, all sorts of institution-wise. We've got this resistance. We've learned that we're limited, and that's what we're in resonance with. And we've got all these limiting beliefs about how we're not good enough, or we can't do that, or that's too big. And they're really, really deep, and they have a very profound effect on our vibration. We must look at those things if we're going to evolve. Now, a person can choose not to, and that's fine, but they're going to pretty much probably see the same kind of patterns running in their life over and over and over again. Why does this always happen to me? Or it's them, it's them, it's them. Basically, you'll see a pattern, and that's just showing you that you've got this energetic program running, and unless you decide to delete that program, or however you want to phrase it, it's gonna dominate you in a very powerful way.
Absolutely, and I've seen it passed on in families.
Sure. That's the ease. That's the most common way. I mean, because we learn things as kids and we get these beliefs, and they don't even seem like beliefs. That's just how things are. It's not like I felt like I had a belief that money was hard to come by. It just was. That's just because that was what was just ingrained in me. So that's pretty powerful to look at something that you thought was, well, that's just true, and realize, well, you know what, that's just a thought. That's all it is. It's a thought that I keep telling myself, and I could tell myself different thoughts if I wanted to.
Yeah, and that's what's so powerful, Bob, is that just what you said. I mean, it sounds so simplistic, but I could tell myself different thoughts if I wanted to. I mean, it really is, it's that simple. It's just that there's that underlying work that needs to be done so that you are telling yourself the different thoughts.
Right.
I mean,
it's amazing how people will resist telling themselves different thoughts, even though they know they're better ones. They will say, I know I could think different thoughts, but I just can't. This needs my attention, or this is how I should feel about this. And that's what we've learned responses. We've learned emotional responses. Like if we lose our job, that means panic. Well, it doesn't have to.
Yeah. It's those conditioned response patterns.
Exactly. But they're so automatic that people just think that's the way it is. And when you tell them that it could be different, they're looking at you like you're crazy.
Yes.
But some people will get it. Some people can hear that, and that's what I'm saying. For what happened for me was once I studied a little bit more kind of the science behind this, not, college degree stuff, just enough to understand that my thoughts are energy, and they're interacting, and every single thought I have has some sort of attractive power because it's doing something. The predominant thought will win. So what is my predominant thought? And when I realized that no matter how much action I was taking to create a successful business, no matter how much I was saying that I wanted to be wealthy, I wanted to have money, I wanted to be out of debt, what was running me was, but it's too hard. I'm going to have to work at a job I don't like. I'll always be in debt anyway, and all of that. So once I saw that, and how that played out in my life so consistently, I thought, okay, well, let's change this thought. Let's just play with it. And yes, there was a lot of resistance at first when I started to change that thought. But with persistence, you can do it. Persistence and a very good strategy for releasing. When I started, I had no clue about releasing. I didn't know about that. I thought you just kind of had to affirm it out or meditate it out or do whatever. But now there's so many ways to interact with that energy and do the release. It can be a lot faster now for people.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad, though, that more of this is getting out. But you need to, Bob, I know you're out there a lot, and, of course, part of the secret, but you need to even get out there more because this concept, this idea of the releasing and how the emotion is the barometer is not so prevalent. I mean, maybe in the circles you've been talking to, but I see so many people that are constantly with the Post-it notes and the affirmations, and they have a stronger conditioned response pattern, and they're very resistant because for some reason people want to just put those posties up, and say, I put enough of them up, right? What is that? What is it with those?
Well, it's a cute idea, and it's something that you can talk about, and it's something that's easy to do and grasp, but if it doesn't shift you vibrationally, it's not doing anything.
Yeah.
If it doesn't get you into alignment with what you want, then you're just doing stuff. That's all you're doing. All of those things are tools that you need to really be conscious and intentional about, and they're there to get you into vibrational resonance with what it is that you want so that you can attract it.
Yeah. So that can be, to me, the affirmation or confirmation, if you're doing the deeper work or the releasing work and changing your thoughts, it can be a reminder. right? But we know we don't change our our behavior or our thoughts on the beta level. You just don't, on their everyday level. I don't know. What's your thought of that?
No, I think you're right, because I mean, people will start that. It's like when they do affirmations. That's a very kind of beta exercise for most people at first, right? They're just reciting words that aren't really getting in there. And if anything, what they're doing is they're conjuring up a ton of resistance, because if they're affirming something that they don't believe is true, then that voice inside their head says you're a liar, right? And so that whole thing's going on. And you're standing there in this state of resistance as you're saying all these wonderful positive things. So the idea for me, affirmations can be great if you use them with a release technique, because as you use affirmations, most likely resistance will come up, and there's your perfect opportunity to release.
That's very powerful. So you're saying that if you are not doing the release technique and you're doing the affirmation, you're actually setting up more resistance for yourself.
Well, you could. I'm saying for some people it would. And I'll also say that, with persistence, the affirmations, you read all kinds of different things about how long it might take an affirmation to work, 21 days, whatever it is they say, so I don't have that kind of patience personally. I've never been able to sit there and affirm something over and over for 21 days in that sort of methodical style. I'd much rather just carry it around with me, right? That this is who I am. This is who I'm being. This isn't something that I hope to be or whatever, but I mean, it's not just words. It's getting into the feeling of what would it be like if I felt like that? What would it feel like to be fit and healthy? Or what would it feel like to have, an unlimited supply of revenue, so that I could do whatever I wanted to? Rather than just saying I have it, well, why are you even saying it? What do you want to feel like? That's the key.
So connecting in with that feeling tone about this.
Yeah. Rather than trying to just convince yourself by saying the same thing over and over again, let's skip all that and say, well, what is it that you want to feel? I mean, because again, a lot of people chase things that don't have anything to do with who they are, what they're about, or their purpose and passion. They've learned that this dollar amount is what they want, and so they spend their lives going after that when it means really nothing to them. And what they're about doesn't necessarily require that much money, or it might require much, much more. But the point is if they do it, if they just be who they are, they'll attract whatever resources they need to do it, if they deal with the resistance that comes up, which for some people it will and some people it won't. I mean, people ask, well, why is it so easy for this person to manifest this and I'm doing the exact same things and I'm not manifesting it?
That's
different levels of resistance. You're resistant about different things. Some people can attract money, no problem. Terrible relationships and vice versa, right? So we all have our stuff, and we all have different layers of it. So there's no set amount of time it's going to take to begin attracting, what you want on a consistent basis. It's about how dedicated are you to releasing resistance that comes up as you go through the process, whatever technique you use.
Well, I never heard it quite that way, releasing the resistance, but I like that. So really, there is, whether it's a belief, a part of you is in resistance to this, new idea, new paradigm, until that what I'm hearing you say, until that resistance is handled. In a way, you're just doing a ping pong, a mental ping pong or something, or life ping pong. You can't really move forward on what it is you feel you want to draw in or experience until that resistance is gone.
If that resistance is like your predominant vibration, if it's really running strong, I mean, if it's just a little bit of resistance, I mean, I think we all get through days where we resist doing something and it gets done anyway. We willpower ourselves over the resistance. But there's some things that the resistance is so deep and it touches us so on a broad emotional scope. I mean, when it comes into emotions, we act completely differently. This isn't some sort of a logical exercise. It's about our feelings, and that's what we're all about. We just want to feel good all the time. That's pretty much what we want, So all of our actions and all of our desires and all of that it's all being driven by something we want to feel, whether it's prosperous or loved or secure or whatever. So being focused on that final feeling more than angsting over how's it going to happen is really the first step.
You'll appreciate this little situation, Bob. Years ago, I worked with and it so elucidates what you're talking about, worked with a trader who made a lot of money, but had encoded within the belief system of the family that what he was doing wasn't really work. And so every time he would get to a certain amount, and it was day trading, so it would be if he was up 30,000, he would lose the next day the $30,000, and then he would build back up. And it was going like I'm telling you. And it turned out it was a belief. There was two beliefs, that it was too easy because the parents came from, depression time and all that kind of stuff, and working hard. And that the idea of, like you said earlier, about not being, like you said, sometimes people attract the money but keeping it. I think you said you had, there was experience of that. Well, it was also this idea of not being able to hold on to it or keep it, because then he would have been able to leave his other even though it was a very, prosperous corporate job, but really wanted to leave that. So every time would go up to that point and then down, and then up to that point and then down. What do you, other than a belief, what do you make of that when people, and you said even you would draw it in and then it would go out, not keeping the money?
There's a term that is used called your financial set point, and it's kind of like your weight set point. Some people will drop to a certain amount, but they won't go lower because it's outside of their safety zone or their comfort zone, right? And the same thing with an upper weight. Most people will reach some point and say, okay, well, I'm not going past this, but, So same thing with money. If you go from doing one thing or, if you go from making one amount to a much greater amount, or, you come from from a family where the belief system is that, well, this is an appropriate amount of money, but anything more than that is excess or whatever. Or your example is fantastic. It's like, well, if I make this much money, I'll have to quit this secure job or whatever I should or whatever, have the opportunity. It's all that resistance, and so it's interesting to say, okay, well, so you don't have to know where it came from, but you do know when you release, you need to know what it feels like. So you're tuned into that feeling of, really what I would say to that person or anybody in that situation is, so what is the feeling that comes up for you when you think about this amount of money? The one that's outside of their comfort zone. What is it? Do you hear someone speak? Do you hear words? Do you have a feeling? Do you see a picture? What is it that comes up for you? Because something's coming up and it's guiding your actions from that point, or it guided your actions up to that point. In other words, it may have looked like everything was going great, like you got the $30,000, and then the next day it was gone. Anyway, the point is that you have to be able to acknowledge and take responsibility for the fact that, okay, these are my beliefs. What am I going to do about them?
Now, Bob, what do you think of certain times when people are, upshifting, up-leveling, or, wanting to, for lack of a better word, do better or, enhance their life more? A lot of times there are people, we had a question about this in the chat earlier, so I'm bringing it up now. There are people in your life that don't quite see it that way, or someone may say, well, I'm trying, or I'm thinking more positively, or I've been making these positive changes, but, family members, don't want me to, or they feel like I'm, leaving them or moving away from them, or friends even.
Right.
Do you have any
Very
thought on
common.
that?
Oh, yes, lots of thoughts, lots of thoughts. That's very common. And the thing is, and so there's a reason, obviously, that happens. You have attracted everyone in your life, including your family, even though that's a whole different conversation. You've attracted all of these people into your life based on what you're vibrating, if you will, up to that point, right? So all these people, it's perfect that those are the people who are in your life. Now, if you decide, hey, I'm going to spin a different way now. I'm going to think positively. I'm going to think wealth conscious. I'm going to go after a dream. I'm going to start a business. I'm going to get on stage. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to follow my dream. When you haven't, for example, your whole life, well, now at an energetic level, you are not vibrating the same. So there's no guarantee that you're going to be in resonance with the people around you anymore. And that is just another one of those things like, wow, I wish it were different, but this is just how it is. You can't expect that everybody else is just going to shift with you. They're on their own path. They've got their own sense of purpose and passion. They have the ability to change their direction at any time, just like you are. But if you decide to change now and then you start putting out different energy, it's going to occur like somehow you're just not meshing with these people the right way, or you find yourself spending less time with them, or you're disconnecting or whatever. And the thing is that people get really bent out of shape about that, or they get upset about it. And again, that's a choice that they're making to feel that way about it. But the thing is, the truth is that people come in and out of our lives all the time. And it is based on what we're putting out there, although that's not what we're thinking about. People just come in and out of our lives all the time. So it may not, if you have a goal that's bigger than your life right now, chances are the people who are around you right now are not your support system, are not your primary support system to elevate you to the next level. You need to add to this group people who will lift you up, who are in resonance with your vision. Some of the people in your life, and in fact, obviously, probably most, will stay. I mean, it's not like they're just going to vanish or leave you or the marriage is going to fall apart or anything like that. But they may not be as on board as you are, and you just have to not be attached to them being any particular way except how they are. The way to know that it's all going to work out the best in the long run for everybody is for you to stay true to who you are and do what you know you must do, not based on somebody else's expectation of you, but what you really want in your life. That way things will play out. You'll attract who you need to get further in your life, and the people around you will either support you or they will shun you or whatever, but you're going to move into this next grand stage of your life, and you're not going to need to worry about that anymore. I mean, that's just, it may sound harsh, and you may say, but Bob, this emotional connection, this is my husband, or this is my wife, or this is my mom, or whatever, you're being so, but this is just how it is. Again, I wish I could say, and everybody will just see your way, and they'll follow you. No, it's time for you to sit there and claim what you want. Who do you want to be, and claim it. Yeah. And that takes a lot of strength.
Yeah, when you were speaking, I'm thinking, when you were saying these words, Bob, I'm thinking, it's really about, do you like yourself enough or love yourself or your life, to live your life. It's really, are you going to put yourself as a priority, which, you're right, does take a lot of strength for some people to say, in a sense, I'm worth it, or my life's worth it, I'm going to go for this.
Right, and what will happen sometimes is with those people, when they do step into it, these people around them may look at what they're doing and accuse them of being selfish or self-centered or whatever, because that's how it occurs to them, that all of a sudden this person is now just taking care of themselves and not everybody else or whatever, however they perceive it. But, in reality, that's just, they're threatened. They feel threatened because they're not doing that. If they were living their passion, if they were following their dream, they wouldn't have time to criticize anybody else for doing the same.
That's right. Then it would be, there would be that sense of support. So in a sense, I think sometimes that crossroads comes in where you have to not necessarily cut off, but, move forward with what you want to do and not be necessarily pulled back in. One thing I have found that I started doing a long time ago, and it has worked wonders for me, is there's certain things when I'm working on or focused on, when I'm going into whatever the next thing is or new level, is I don't share that with everyone. I only share that with those that are supportive of my vision and actually it is similar, you know what I mean, in a similar resonance or field or understanding.
Right. Yes, definitely. I mean, you don't want to just say, you want to take your big dream and share it with somebody who you know is going to tell you why it won't work,
Right, exactly.
But you do want to find the people who can support you in it, because it's very important to realize that this manifesting thing isn't always just this one-person job where you're this magician conjuring up everything out of nowhere. You're going to attract people. You're going to attract other resources that you're going to utilize. You're working in concert with the universe, who will deliver all of these things that you need, the people, the ideas, the things that you just know that you need to do or are inspired to do. Your job is to act.
That's right. Now someone's asking, do you mean that I don't share things with people who think I'm nuts? No, it's not even the nuts. I don't mind the people that think I'm nuts, because they're very overt. It's the ones that give you the little look or the little, are you sure? Okay, that might be right, Bob? It's the ones, the more insidious ones.
It also depends on who's doing the talking. The words "are you sure" may be completely impotent to me coming from one person, but mean everything from another.
Exactly.
So it really just depends on how you're interpreting what their interpretation is. So if you find yourself being swayed by their opinion, then what you know at that moment is that you've still got some resistance in that area, and it gives you a clue of what to work on. Because if you were clear of resistance, their words would do nothing to you.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. In that bridging phase, when I'm about to go in the next level, and I'm still, I'm in the bridge of it, the center of it. There are certain, not so many anymore, but there are certain people that I can just see, and by what's going on also in their life, I just don't I just don't even go there. I go more to the support group or those that are already doing it or living it, or we're on the same page with that. And then once, like you say, Bob, that resistance is gone, once my little doubt is no longer doubt because I'm already doing it or I'm enough in that next new level, then those people I share, talk about. But I agree, it's that bridging point, that where I think where the support is so important, where you have to also recognize within you, like you said earlier, whether, it's not the words, it's the tone or the look that perhaps you are triggered by. And so if you know that, then you just don't set yourself up or go there. Because I've seen some people, and I'm sure you've seen this also, that actually go to those people to then get the approval or the support of what they want to do. And then, of course, they are, shot down.
Right.
And then there goes they get low toned, and it's hard to get motivated again, to do what it is.
It's interesting. A person who, will do that will go to people they know will downplay them. Now what they can do, see, that's indicative of their own resistance, because now they can say, well, so-and-so said it wasn't a good idea, or so-and-so wouldn't let me, so, I just didn't do it. Now they don't have to take responsibility because somebody else didn't think it was evaluated it based on their own stuff and said, no, I don't think I'd do it, and so you say, okay. So, you'd be scared to go to somebody who you think would support you, because then you'd have to, do it. What if they got engaged in the idea and said, I'm going to help you, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you really have to be clear on, is this what you want? Then yes, if it scares you still, let's work on that resistance. What are you scared of?
Mm-hmm. So it really goes back to that resistance. We're really just talking about different forms of resistance and locating those forms or being aware of those forms.
Right.
Now,
being
I had
aware
a question is what it being aware. I had a question in the chat from Tammy about the financial set points that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And if everyone has these financial set points, how do you raise the bar, in a sense, was the question.
Well, knowing that you have them is is really the first step, because then you can kind of look back and kind of laugh at yourself. Wow, I'm doing this. I'm doing more work. I'm doing all this other stuff, but I'm still, at the end of the day, this is what I'm making. So it's about, well, what is that? It alludes back to what I was talking about before. So think of a higher dollar amount. Think of what you'd rather be making, and then be very aware of what you feel as a result of that. You may feel some excitement about the idea of making it, but what's below that? Because whatever that is the thing that's stopping you from getting into action or being able to attract what you want. And so that feeling that comes up, and again, sometimes you're going to have to dig a little deep and be really honest and be willing to be extremely honest with yourself and look at something you may not want to look at. I mean, because if you don't, then okay, well then we're all just playing a game with words and stuff. Because I'm telling you, this is what you got to do, and if you decide not to do it and you don't get results, that's why. So the point is, so you think of that dollar amount, you get aware of that, and then you choose your releasing technique, whatever it is, or you take it into a hypnotherapy session and say, okay, this is what I'm aware that I have, right? So let's work on that. Let's see where that came from. Let's untangle that a little bit, because then that will free you up energetically to attract, that next new dollar amount. That's why sometimes what I tell people to do is when they're first starting out, instead of thinking about the dollar amount that they need, think like 10 times past that. You got to stretch that a little bit, right? So you're going to have resistance come up. Yeah, that's fine. But the more you envision what it would be like to have that huge amount of money, right, and the more you can envision that and kind of play with that idea, well, then the idea of what you really need doesn't seem that big. And so you've stretched that resistance out a little bit. It's not as strong because you've allowed yourself to play at a bigger energetic space.
Mm-hmm. It almost reminds me, shoot for the moon and reach the stars or something, right? Because you go at the top of the tree. You go way out there, and so the resistance that's there, you still bump yourself up a little bit. Wow, Bob, that's a great little mind tool. That's a great idea, actually.
Yeah, well, I think it works. I think it really works. I mean, it can't not work, really, if you truly get yourself into that feeling space of whatever that huge grand sum was, or even if you come close, because then it really will. It'll seem like, oh, that amount? And now it doesn't mean that you'll have it. It won't appear necessarily out of thin air that day because you suddenly feel that way. But what will probably happen is you'll be much more open to being inspired to take the action you need to take to generate that dollar amount, whatever it is. Start a business, be a movie star. I don't know, whatever it is. Follow your passion and let it lead you there. Right.
Now we have another question from Debbie that she's asking. I thought we were not supposed to manifest money, but abundance.
Right. Well, yeah. Okay. So the thing is that on a conceptual level, that's exactly right. What you want in your life is abundance. Okay. So how it shows up may be lots of different things, But in a society, in a world like ours, it's going to show up as money a lot. That is the most efficient way for the universe to deliver something that is an exchange of value for most people. We've got this whole system in place. So what I'm saying is when you do get into alignment with abundance, yes, I mean, you shouldn't be focused on the money, absolutely, because it doesn't mean anything. It's what is that money going to provide to you is much more important, and why is that in alignment with your sense of purpose and passion? That's what I'm saying. To sit there and go, $1 million, $1 million, and have no concept of really why, just because you think it's going to solve all your problems. In the meantime, that's a dollar amount that you've never seen, you've never had any experience with, you really can't connect to it, and you've got a ton of resistance around it. Progress will be slow. However, if you can understand what it is you truly want to feel and know what abundance is to you, then whatever dollar amount is necessary to provide that can come to you if you don't resist it.
So it goes back to that feeling. Bob, what do you think about for expanding into that abundance to focus on what you want to do with the money or the connections as opposed to just getting that, like say, charitable? Does that figure in at all anywhere with?
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you ask that again?
Yeah, some people say, again, I had somebody mention in the chat about focusing on what it is that you want as opposed to the dollar amount, or what do you want to do with the money, I suppose.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Does that play into this at all?
Well, I think so in many ways. I mean, that's certainly something I've taught in the past because again, if you're all bunged up about money, because you've never had it or it's scarce, then focusing on the money is just focusing on this area of resistance that is huge for you. Now, yes, you can. The reason I've kind of softened my stance on the don't ask for money thing is because now we have all these release tools, and I think it's really powerful exercise to go ahead and do the direct releasing on the money if that's what you're focused on. But what I'm saying is even though, the money may be the means to your end, the end is what you should be focused on in terms of your feeling and all of that. And then see what shows up in terms of the resources to have you do that, whether it's money or whatever.
Okay. So as long as the tools are there clearing out that kind of subconscious clog or picture that no longer is relevant or belief, then you can, once that clearing is there, then you can move into drawing in what you want. It seems like it goes back to that, really.
It will always go back to that when you talk to me.
Okay, good. I'm so glad to hear that. I really am. I was hoping that by what I saw on your site. Now, but you don't go too much. You go into because you have a program, right? Also that you offer people. Right.
Wealth Beyond Reason program is my primary way of teaching. Yeah.
Okay. You want to share a little bit of that with us?
Sure. The Wealth Beyond Reason program, which we just re-released like a month ago with a whole new delivery format for the education, is a curriculum in the law of attraction, and my commitment is really take as mainstream approach to this as possible, because that's where I come from, and I know that there's a lot of my contemporaries who could really benefit from this information, but if you package it in any sort of new age way, they're not going to listen, right? So we try to really focus on the science of things and then the practical application of things. But like I said, we set that foundation of what the law of attraction is, what it isn't, how it works, and all that. But then most of the course is about attacking resistance in various ways, not just the technique, but understanding where your resistance is, and then the practical things that come up, like the question that was asked earlier, well, what about, if a spouse doesn't agree with this or whatever? So we've got, basically a little library of textbooks that gets you set up and sets that foundation. And then it's mostly audio, lectures on various aspects of the law of attraction, tons of stuff about resistance and working through resistance. We have many, many hours of teleseminars where we walk people through the releasing process on, just a huge variety of abundance-related issues. We do interviews with other law of attraction experts to get me, because I know it was very valuable for me when I was learning about this to get other points of view. You find a teacher that you resonate with, and that's the one that's going to be effective, or a combination. So we try and put in as many as we can in that. So it's a from beginning to end sort of process. You get in, you don't have to know anything about the law of attraction or anything, and then by the end you've taken action, you're starting to manifest things, and it's all, like I said, it's very methodical, very step by step, and the concepts are presented in a way that I feel are essential in terms of really being able to make use of it. Because if you just come out screaming, like attracts like, do a vision board, and people do that and don't get results and they don't understand anything about resistance, I kind of have to set them up first, that this is what's going to happen when you start to do this. This is what it's going to look like, and here's what you do about it, so that then these techniques that I'm about to give you can work.
Mm-hmm. That's what I like, because it's very grounded. I think we need the processing. You need to process. You can't just put, like I said, the posties up. You need to look and you need the tool to say, how do I shift this? And I think that the other thing I'm hearing you say, and I think it's so important, that it's not all, some of it is subconscious repatterning, but some of it is very conscious. You have to start poking around and looking around and noticing in your life, oh, this thought keeps coming up, or this belief, or this seems to be my resistance. I mean, you have to be engaged. It's not enough just to wish something in, or like you said, do the vision board, or put the Post-its up.
Right. Well,
because then you're not. Go ahead.
Because it sounds like laborious, like you have to be careful of this, be careful of that. But it's not like that. It's really just you're just forming a new habit of thinking and feeling. And it will become easier. It won't seem so much like a process. And my goal is to have people who are not dependent on any particular process or a step-by-step formula or a program or a particular mentor or anything like that. What they do is they learn what once they really step into what it feels like to, first take responsibility for what they've attracted and then consciously create something else. And then, kind of know, look, this is just about me and my feelings and releasing resistance, and I can do this on my own. That's what I want, is a bunch of self-empowered, deliberate creators living their passion, because the world will be a much different place when people are living their passion and not feeling like they have to compensate for the fact that they couldn't.
Mm-hmm. And that living the passion, does that, when you remove the resistance, does that passion become more overt? Is it more easily seen?
Well, I would think so, because you're going to go out there and play big, right? I mean, a lot of people have these passions that they just play really, really small, and they're their hobbies and this type of thing. But if you claim who you are and you take your passion out into the world and say, hey, look, I'm contributing my value in this way, you're going to be seen more, you're going to grow, you're going to evolve. Your passion may evolve into something completely different or a variety of what it is. But, it's taking that first step and saying, hey, look, this is who I am. I'm going to go be it, that will eventually get you, have you be the most powerful person you can be in the world in terms of being a deliberate creator and having the most profound impact on people.
Mm-hmm. Okay, couple of questions here. One, so Bob is saying to manifest or send things to the universe, you have to feel and see the sight you're sending out to begin to receive it, right? Kathy, what are you on? Okay, go ahead. Do you get that question?
Well, I mean, it sounds like what she's asking is, do you have to visualize this or whatever? I mean, you want to get into the feeling space of, if you're going to deliberately attract something, you have to understand, what it's going to feel like when it gets there and all of that, or take the appropriate action so that things line up. Visualization and all of that, again, it's just a tool, and you don't have to necessarily, like some people have a problem with seeing pictures in their head. Visualizing to them is, they can't do it when you talk about images. But from in a law of attraction conversation, visualization is just sort of any imaginary act that gets you into vibrational resonance with what you want. So it can be just thinking about what it is that you want. You don't necessarily have to be able to picture it, but of course then that's when things like vision boards become helpful and all of that. But yeah, you do want to get clear. If I had to sum up what she said, yeah, you do have to be, if you're going to deliberately create something, you got to be clear on what that is and pretty much why you want that to be a part of your experience. Otherwise, all the resistance comes up if you don't know why.
And I think eventually, because the picture and the imaging, actually the beliefs, and actually also the behavior is very late on the chain. So to me, the closer you can get to the feeling of something, the feeling tone, you tend to attract more abundantly. Most people that I know that live abundantly, myself included, I mean, the lifestyle that I had, and even now, I mean, living in Europe, and I mean, I didn't plan any of this, but the feeling that I had for my life, and I was very open to the openings when things were presented. I have plenty of friends that, they wanted to, live in Europe or even just travel to Europe. I've lived over there a few times. One time I lived in a $13 million pound house with, a chauffeur and, staff. And I didn't plan any of that, but I was very open to the openings, and the feeling, being around those type of individuals. To me, I just would go back to it's the feeling, and obviously I didn't have resistance to it, right? I guess is what you would say, Bob.
Well, a lot of people, it is about, you stress, and it's very important that I think that people get that you didn't plan any of that, but you were clear on what you wanted to feel like. You wanted what your life, you had a clear idea, well, something like this would be fun, or this is a feeling that would be fun, or whatever, so you're clear on that, and then that's what you attract, not so much on the process itself. I mean, it's not that you won't have a plan. It's not that you won't have a strategy, because a lot of times that is what the universe will give you. I mean, you'll have this inspired idea for action to take, for a plan. But to get, bent out of shape because you can't figure out something is slowing the process.
Yeah. And I think most people, they don't take the openings. And you said this earlier, Bob, and I think it's so important, that passion and that purpose. At the time I was living that lifestyle, I gave up what seemed, very successful modeling career. I had a television show. I seemed on the outside to give up a lot, but my passion and my purpose was my spiritual development, and I could take time off from having that kind of lifestyle, not worry about the monetary, and retrain, refocus. And an opening came, and I'd lived in Europe a couple times before that, but this opening came to live for a few years and not have to work. And most people were, I even invited a few people, was going to pay for them to come over, and, oh no, I can't leave my business, all this kind of stuff. And so again, I think it's those openings. I think a lot of times there's openings there, even a small opening, or someone saying, I can help you with this, or I'll do this, or why don't you do this? And a lot of people don't go through that little doorway or that window. Most people don't. You're absolutely right. Most people don't.
Because they either want to do it themselves, or they want to have the long-term strategy, or they don't have all the answers, or for any number of reasons. Yes, they turn down opportunity after opportunity after opportunity because they don't see that's really the opportunity.
Yeah, and what's interesting, Bob, is after 3 or 4 months after I did that, the show that I was working for anyway got pulled off the air and restructured, and when I came back, I ended up doing some work for them anyway. So life was going to be unraveling for me anyway. So, but I didn't know that. I didn't know where all of this would go. I mean, it ultimately ended up to much more abundance. Now, Bob, do you think when people aren't going through those openings, is that part of the resistance also? Is that a form of resistance?
Definitely, right. Because they don't know how to be in the flow, really. And so it's evaluating every little thing that comes up, and they're not being present. It's all about an opportunity comes up, and they evaluate. Well, based on what I know, will this work? Is this a good opportunity? And the thing is, if they base every decision on what they know so far, how much further can they go if they've been stuck somewhere for a really long time, making all their decisions based on that. At some point, they're going to have to trust that this person or this idea or whatever is there for a reason, a divine reason, if you will, and you've got to take some sort of action on it just to see. Play with it. See what happens when these bizarro things occur that seem to have nothing to do with what your goal is. Take some action on that. Follow your fun, follow your bliss, follow your passion, however you want to say it. Just have fun with the experience of getting from here to there. And on that path, you're going to meet a lot of interesting people. You're going to go a lot of interesting places. You're going to have a lot of bizarro things happen to you that if you take action on these in a fun, inspired way, will bring you towards what it is that you want. And as you go forward, I think the path will become much more clear. But at the very beginning, sometimes you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, and that's for me, it became clear because then I thought, this is where I'm really being guided to, or, on a higher purpose where I'm meant to go. And it all, kind of got together in a little package in a way. But now, one thing, Tammy, I want to say, Bob asked you in the chat, she's saying this is what she meant. In other words, I said I follow the openings, and she said to her, she's, there's an issue around receiving. My contention, I want to get your take on this, it's not so much about people not being able to receive, because it's trusting, and you just mentioned that word trusting that where this is leaving. You call it those bizarro things happening. Do you think it's more, is it about receiving, people not being open to receive, or is it just not trusting that they're being,
I think it's going to be both. I mean, I think there's going to be people who have definite issues of receiving. They've learned ideas about that, and then there's other ideas about people trusting this, that, and the other. I think it's two different things. They can both certainly happen. Okay.
Another question from Debbie. Where are the men? I see you in the chat and online. You're not. It's a female dominated discussion today. Debbie is asking, when let's say you're working with somebody and she's couching it as a spiritual teacher, and you begin to hear stuff that isn't resonating anymore to you with this teacher, is that, in your opinion, is that a signal, as a time to move on?
Well, you want the process of learning and growing to be mostly enjoyable. I mean, confronting is different. I mean, if a teacher says something that is confronting to you, that's totally different than if they're just going off in a direction where you're going, you know what, I was connected up to this point, but this just isn't working for me. Then I think it's certainly not going to hurt to look around for some other things, and that's going to happen too. I mean, I've moved through lots of different teachers, if you will, people who have made an impact on me, and I've taken what I need from them to help me grow to my next level. And maybe some of the other stuff isn't so much my thing, and I just move on, and I think but it may work great for them and a lot of other people, and that's the great thing about this. The law of attraction is very flexible, because there are so many different ways to get a person into vibrational resonance with what they want. There's all sorts of different approaches and language around it and all processes, and and some work for some people and some don't, and same with teachers, same with individuals. They may be great for you for a while, and then you either grow out of them or whatever, and you move on. So I think that's totally normal.
Mm-hmm. And also on that note, we don't have to, in other words, agree with everyone, because I think you said even in your Wealth Beyond Reason program that there are different points of view in the program. People are going to hear from different people.
Yes.
I think sometimes people misinterpret the law of resonance that we have to always agree with everyone. Because I have some teachers I work with that or what?
Or be a nice person. Now, I hate to put it this way, but the law of attraction isn't about being a good person or a spiritual person or worthy, any of that. It's about being in vibrational resonance with what you want. So people can do some things that you would not like, utilizing the law of attraction or whatever, because they're in resonance with it. Now, that doesn't mean you cannot be let me put it this way. You don't necessarily have to be a person who observes a lot of bad things happening around you. Like for some people, all they do is talk about the reality of nothing but bad news. When there's plenty of bad news, when there's plenty of good news out there, they're just not in resonance with it, so they're not hearing about it. I'm not exactly sure why I got where I was going.
No, I like that, but they're not here. But that's true. Well, because you're not hearing about it. It's out there, but it's not really in your world,
right,
or
not
resonating. Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, I
you
hear
don't have
some
to make
things.
it a part of your world.
No, exactly. I hear some things and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that, or that's happening out there. You know, I'm like, those things. But you know, I want to get your take on this, Bob, too. At one point, it kind of hit me that, you know, it's important to know where you, in a sense, belong, or, you know, we can say resonating. Or for me, I looked at what's my sphere of influence and experience. You know, where am I guided to be and you really feel fulfilled? And those areas, like I'm really not feeling like being political and going on, you know, Capitol Hill or marching or that kind of stuff.
Right.
A little bit of that, right? But I think sometimes we have to say, look, that's really not my thing. You know, I'm not saying put your head in the sand, but I think you have to know what is really your, and you said it earlier, your passion, your purpose, and that's where we're meant to be.
Right. The contributions that people are making through their political activities, their, you know, whatever they're doing, if that's their world, the contributions they're making by being those people are just as valuable as the contributions you're making as a person who's in a different world. You know, because you're touching sometimes a lot of the same people or different people or whatever. The point is everyone's contributing if they're doing what they're passionate about. Some people are really passionate about knowing what's going on in the world and going out there and making, you know, that kind of a difference or being involved in that way. Whereas other people may, you know, they want to work with individuals. They want to do retreats and fulfill people at an individual level or whatever. It's all great stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's all great. It just depends on your passion and purpose. It seems to go back to that.
So a person shouldn't feel like they should be doing something or should be a certain way. I should really watch the news more, you know, because, you know, you got to know what's going on and all that. And I'm like, oh, really? You know, do you really have to know what happened across town at 6:30 in the morning last, you know? It's
right.
But again,
so that you can do nothing.
Right. It's like go out there and live your life and not, you know, stress about everybody else's.
I think that's sage advice. Live your life. And that's that loving law of allowance. You have to allow others to have their own life and life choices and focus on your own. You know where is your true fulfillment. Well, just in the last couple minutes remaining, what if you kind of did a little bird's eye view of your path up to this point, what do you feel and think has most helped you or assisted you to be where you're at?
Learning to release. There's no question. Learning what resistance was and how it ruled my life was the first step, but then learning different ways to deal with it was the most powerful thing that ever happened, because, you know, not only did it have an impact on what I was able to do, but then I was able to, through my program, propagate that, you know, on a much more mass level. And so through my own experience with this stuff, I was able to, I think, make a big difference in people's law of attraction work, because that whole resistance piece was so huge for me. So if there was any one distinction that I got, you know, since I've been doing this program, that has made the most difference, and that is learning the distinction of resistance and then learning to release it.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a great piece. It's a very grounded piece and essential. So you're getting something that really, a tool that people can really use. And like you said earlier, everyone's going to use it a little bit differently or have a different way of doing it. But the point is to do it, right? Yeah. Move past that resistance. And Julian is saying, I love this guest. Thank you, Michele. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you've been very helpful. It's been great insight and stuff that people can really use. And again, just if you want to go to Bob Doyle's website, it's wealthbeyondreason.com. And we have been dialoguing with Bob Doyle, author of Wealth Beyond Reason, and also the program Wealth Beyond Reason, which can be found at wealthbeyondreason.com. Bob, thanks so much for being here with us.
Thanks, Michele. I appreciate it. I had fun.
Okay, great. You take good care.
You too.
And thank you all for being awake, aware, and sharing your insight. Great questions, everyone. Really got a lot of good insight and information. And, of course, knowing that you all are wealthy internally, so you're moving into that wealth consciousness right now, even as we're speaking. And you've got some good tools. I think you heard about the releasing. That's so important. That's really why I was glad that Bob could be on today to share that reiterate what we've been talking about. Those of you that want to find out more information again about Bob Doyle, you can go to wealthbeyondreason.com. So I think all of you that are listening, all of you that are connecting in this converging flow nationally, internationally, through all the podcast stations, Cosmic Dimensions, iTunes, we all welcome you into this converging flow. We feel your energy, your support, and we know that you are living a more and more life-enhanced living and point of view just by being you. Just be you. So until next time, just shine your light and keep awake.